This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this StockBox interview.
Well, today I'm joined by Jason Brewer, Executive Director at Caracal Gold. Jason, thank you very much for your time today. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. Very well indeed.
Excellent. So last week, Caracal released its accounts for the year end June 2024, which is a key step in returning the company to trading on the market. Jason, just before we go into the next steps from the company and the Kilimapesa project itself, can you just set the scene for what's been happening with the corporate restructuring that's been taking place since you joined a month or so ago?
Sure. Look, I think I've been in the seat now for barely 2 months. So part of it was getting to understand the state of the company, understand its financial position, understand the relationships with some of the key stakeholders, both here in Kenya and in Tanzania, and with the stakeholders in the UK, the London Stock Exchange and the FCA, because clearly the company has been suspended for a prolonged period of time. And there are a number of key milestones that need to be satisfied now in order for us to get to the point of looking at a resumption in trading of the stocks. So the past few months, it's been an awful lot going on. We've managed to get out accounts for the subsidiaries, for the parent company now, for the 12-month period. We've got interims, which will follow very shortly. We've restructured the board. We've got a very strong board now, comprising very experienced, very capable people here in Africa, and particularly here in Kenya. And that's important when dealing with all the key stakeholders here. We've got a new representative in London, primarily a shareholder representative in the name of Kevin Warrington, who's adding tremendously already. So there's been a lot of, housekeeping to get everything done. And that's very important for us. So with that in place now, we can look and move forward to the next phase, which is finalizing a prospectus, making payments to key stakeholders here in Kenya, and looking at how we're going to get this thing back up and trading and operating as well at the Kilimapesa mine.
Brilliant. Yeah. So clearly all those efforts are starting to bear some fruit. Just to return to the prospectus a bit, can you tell us a bit about how that restructuring of the balance sheet and everything's progressing? Can you give a timeline on when we might see some results from that?
Look, timelines are pretty difficult here. You're negotiating, as people would have seen from the annual accounts, there's been multiple, band-aids applied to the company with various funding facilities coming in, short-term working capital facilities, debts, convertible, bridging loans, convertible loans, and so on and so forth. So there's been a band-aid solution over the past 12, 18 months. We now need to go to those. We've had to go to those investors, those debt providers, and say, all right, guys, we're looking to list. We need to negotiate now how this incorporates into the expanded balance sheet, into the capital structure of the company. So we've had to negotiate with them. There's also a number of key stakeholders here in Kenya in particular, where there are amounts owed and where we obviously need to settle them before we can even consider getting on site and starting operations. The communities, the government, landowners, and so on. So there's a lot of discussions which have been going on with them, and those are ongoing, and those will continue over the coming weeks. So in terms of timelines to get this restructuring, we will be putting in an updated draft prospectus over the course of this week. In parallel with that, we continue with these negotiations, with these discussions, whereby we are looking at a lot of that debt either being converted into equity upon the resumption of trading in the company shares, and or being repaid either at listing or on a schedule thereafter of 12 to 18 months. So there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of discussions. I can't take the Donald Trump approach and say, guys, it's this or nothing. I've got to go cap in hand because the company is very much on the back foot. But I think the changes that we've made allow us now to move forward with a little bit more confidence than where we were 1 month, 2 months ago, and look towards getting this company back in a fit and proper shape and getting it to a point where the regulators in the UK will allow us to start trading again.
Absolutely. And with all that in mind, I won't ask you to commit to a timeline for when the company will return to trading. But once the the prospectus is done, what are some of the other steps that need to be completed before you can begin trading again?
Look, at the moment we're busy focusing on getting those creditors resolved. Okay, getting them agreeing to our strategy of that relisting process. There is some interim funding which we're looking at tying up this week, which allows us to settle a lot of those outstanding creditors. That then allows us to clearly move ahead and get the prospectus updated. We need to update the prospectus to show just how much of that debt is converting into equity and just how much of that is going to be termed out or repaid on listing. As part of the restart there, we need capital. Okay, we need to secure capital. That capital is going to come in primarily from two sides of the balance sheet, the debt and equity side. The gold markets have clearly moved in the favor of Caracal and the Kilimapesa mine. So the gold price is several $100s higher now than when the company was suspended. So we really will need to be of significant appeal enough to the equity markets to support us. Okay, we will have to raise equity. There's no question about that. Because to get this mine started is going to require equity. Debt holders have been very supportive over the past 12, 18 months. That debt has come at a cost, okay? And it's come at a cost not just in terms of its pricing, the interest rate, the coupon, and so on and so forth, but it's come at a cost because it's from multiple parties. And dealing with multiple parties introduces complexities. So we've got to work out with all those parties how it all comes together. If we're able to get this done, look, I would love 30 June is a pivotal date in my mind because of year ends and half years and so on and so forth. We've got to set ourselves our own deadlines, but we're in the laps of the gods in terms of regulators, both here in Kenya and in the UK. But working through a lot of this is something which myself, the rest of the directors, the team on the ground are focused on. So debt, equity, hard work on the ground, working with creditors, getting everything aligned. And that's the thing. Sometimes I feel like I'm trying to herd cats, or I'm chasing chicken. I feel like I'm in a Rocky movie, trying to chase the chickens around and grab one of them. It's hard because sometimes you're going in one direction and you get pulled in another. We've got to work with all stakeholders, and it's a challenge, but you know what? I'm loving it. I think the gold market is very supportive of where we're at. A number of investors remain highly supportive. But again, it's almost once bitten, twice shy with them. They've got to know that it's good money not going in after bad. It's good money going in after good money, which has kept this company afloat.
Absolutely. So a busy few weeks there then still, but making good progress on the corporate side. Moving on to the operational side, you previously said the focus will be on getting Kilimapesa back into production as quickly as possible. For those who are new to the company, can you just quickly set the scene for the project? What sort of scale of operation were you looking at? And I think I'd be interested to know how the project economics are being supported by the elevated gold prices we're seeing at the moment.
Sure. Look, Kilimapesa is a mine which goes back to the pre-independence days here in Kenya. It was actually the first mining operation to receive a mining permit after independence. So it's got quite an important place to play in Kenya's kind of mining history, which is why there is such a tremendous focus on making sure it's a success. It has to be a success. It's in Narok County near the town of Logorian, and that community have been involved in gold mining both artisanally and at this operation for decades. Gold mining is very much part of the community there, as well as obviously the Maasai community, the Maasai culture, which is one of obviously cattle and agriculture and so on. But this operation was focused as an underground operation, a series of adits going into the Kilimapesa hill. Kilimapesa, just so you're aware, Kili means hill. If anybody knows Kilimanjaro, for instance, Kili means hill. Pesa means money. So you can understand what Kilimapesa comes from. So there's a lot of history of gold there. Traditionally an underground mine. And for the first couple of years that Caracal had it, was operated as an underground mine. JORC compliant resources that have been drilled out. What became apparent was that there was issues with the milling, with the processing of that gold. It was very difficult to get a good handle on the grade coming out of that underground. Geologists realized that you could transition to a much lower cost open pit operation based upon some of the the drilling and exploration work which was done as well on the hill. So the operation over the past couple of years has transitioned away from that conventional underground CIL milling, carbon and leach processing operation to a heap leach operation. Heap leach tends to be bigger volume, lower grade, but lower cost. And that's what was commenced a couple of years ago and what proved to be quite successful. What's required as we move forward is to basically allow us to get a better handle on that open pit gold production, the open pit grades, to go through to that heap leach. Heap leach also tends to be a lower recovery rate. So for the operation going forward, previously there was the strategy to get production up there towards that 50,000 ounces a year. Okay. To start with, we're going to be in the couple of 100 ounces per month, moving up to 500 ounces, 1,000 ounces a month. That's the reality. Okay. There's going to be a ramp up over the course of this year and into 2026, as capital becomes available. Yeah. Your costs with a heap leach operation are anywhere from $1,500 an ounce to $2,000 an ounce. So when you've got a gold price in excess of $3,000 an ounce, your project economics can be seen to be quite robust. Okay. As an open pit, large scale, call it bulk mining operation, you're not dealing with the selective underground mining. So your operating costs are much lower. You're using heavy earth moving equipment as opposed to handheld air leg drills. So your personnel, your manpower requirements are far less. Your processing as well from a heap leach operation, you haven't got the intensity that you have of people that you have on a CIL and a milling operation. The CIL operation will continue, but it just needs to be refocused on. So going forward here, open pit, heap leach operation, bigger volumes. The volumes of that need to be determined from further exploration, which will have to be completed over the course of this year. Get better handle on grade distribution. The exploration before demonstrated such significant gold potential there. Everybody knows the gold potential at Kilimapesa and around in that Logorian area in Narok County. The level of artisanal mining there is massive. So, and artisanal miners don't do it for fun. They're making money. So the potential there is to move to a large scale operation, heap leach operation, open pit, going through low cost, high margin, but we've got to be cognizant that the ramp up to that is not going to be rapid. It's going to be progressive over the course of the rest of this year and into 2026 to allow us to get to that 1,000, 2,000 ounces per month and then going beyond that. But that requires investment, that requires further exploration, and it requires a very focused and dedicated management team. And that's hopefully what we'll be able to introduce over the course of this month and over the course of the third quarter of 2025.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So with that in mind, so the focus is obviously on restarting production, but with the long-term potential there, will you be completing exploration in parallel to continue sort of increasing the size of the resource as you ramp up production?
Absolutely. Look, you need exploration to allow you to do that large-scale open pit operation. You need exploration to justify the capital investment. You need to complete that exploration to give investors confidence in the high-grade potential and the longevity of this operation. Without that, you're hamstrung. So you need it to give you confidence in building a gold company here and making further investments, not just on the heap leach operation, but on the milling and on the carbon leach operation. So yes, exploration will proceed. Previously, Caracal acquired 2 drill rigs. You've got a diamond rig, you've got an RC rig. That allows the company to basically push ahead and do all this work with a very good exploration team and give the confidence to everybody involved, all stakeholders involved as to what's there. There really has not been any significant drilling, gold exploration drilling conducted other than what Shanta Gold did in West Kenya. There's really not been a significant exploration program across any gold resources here in Kenya. And Kenya's location in proximity to Tanzania's, world-class gold mining industry, geology doesn't follow geographic boundaries. So the potential in Kenya in its gold sector is massive. And Anybody that comes here to Kenya and drives around West Kenya and sees the level of gold mining by artisanal and small-scale mining operations can see it, can realize it. It now needs to be proven up, drill proven up, to allow people to do that larger scale commercial gold mining operations, which Kilimapesa, which Caracal Gold are well placed to do.
Excellent. So it's that model of applying modern systematic exploration and mining to areas that are already proven through their artisanal production.
Absolutely. I mean, artisanal miners are the best geologists in the world. They're the ones that find this gold. They do the small scale mining. They expose it. They demonstrate that it's there. They de-risk it largely. Where we're sitting, the potential to basically get in there and drill prove that up, to get the attention of international investors, to get the confidence of international investors. Because let's face it, Kenya has not got a track record in mining, particularly in gold. There's great potential there. You've had Barrick with the mine, which Shanta Gold, which was AIM listed, acquired. And that was one of the highest grade gold projects in Africa. So the potential is clearly here. It needs to be demonstrated. And if Caracal can, over the course of the balance of this year and through 2026, complete its exploration activities and prove that up and demonstrate high-grade, significant resources, then I think it'll be quite a breakthrough for Caracal as we look to build on a strong gold-producing strategy here in East Africa.
Excellent. It's definitely an exciting time. And with that in mind, could you, just to finish off, could you outline a few of the catalysts investors can look forward to on the ground once trading begins and you're allowed to get out on the field and start ramping up towards production and exploration again?
Yeah, look, I think the key thing for us is the next key thing for us on the ground here is with the community and with the government and getting the endorsement that Caracal can proceed and restart that operation there at Kilimapesa. That is critical for us to demonstrate that we're working with all our stakeholders here to bring this project into production. You're then going to see activities start up. You're going to see exploration commence on the open pit. You're going to actually see material start to go on the heap leach pads. Yeah, once that material goes on there, there is a 60, 90-day period before that gold is coming through. So there is going to be a period of waiting, but the company's not going to sit there and wait. It's going to be continuing to do detailed mine planning. It's going to be doing further exploration. So you're going to see exploration results. You're going to see the build-up of activity on site. You're going to see as well, as a company, we're going to be looking at expanding our footprint here in Kenya. As I've just talked about, there's tremendous resources here that don't know that there is a boundary between Tanzania's goldfields and what Kenya has. So we will be looking at expanding our footprint here in Kenya, growing our business, growing our partnerships with the local communities, growing our partnerships with the government, and building this company up here. So operationally, you'll see a new operations team. You'll see a very clear focus on delivering in terms of ounces, exploration resource ounces, and in terms of gold coming out of the ground. So that has to be the focus, and that's what shareholders will see.
Great. Well, with so much going on, I'm sure we'll be catching up on Caracal again soon, Jason. But in the meantime, thank you very much for your time.
No problems. Thank you. Thank you very much.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.